is Marie Kay, broadcasting from my lovely orange kitchen. And today I am going to follow up on something we talked about during the last Snacky Sunday episode. Namely, I showed you the Super Slaw. Remember that? Yep, that's it. So today I am going to show you how to make it. As with so many canning projects, and as I've mentioned before, basically it's just a lot of slicing and dicing and then some weeks of waiting. So while this is not instant gratification, it is definitely worth it. Super Slaw is something I came up with, not necessarily by accident, but sort of gathering information from different recipes, ideas from different people, and so that's how it came about. I just kept adding on to it. So we have our ingredients. We have 2 red cabbages. I'm making a double recipe today. We have a great big shiny Granny Smith apple. We have some red onions, 3 of them. We have 3 carrots. I don't have any fresh beets this time, so I'm using a can of my store brand's pre-cut beets, no problem there. And I have some currants. I have my biggest bowl, that's essential. I have my trusty silver knife, so let's play. We begin by prepping all of our ingredients and basically either cutting them or shredding them. So for the cabbage, the only way to attack the cabbage is pre-cut it into a bunch of pieces. The fun part about this is that once you start slicing and dicing, you can like cut it in every direction just as long as your pieces are coming out small. And as during our emergency pickling marathon, we are going to save our vegetable leftovers, like our lovely little cabbage core, and later on we are going to make another batch of vegetable stock with those. So those are not getting thrown away. Meanwhile, you know, it's all about just, you know, working that wrist. And yeah, when I work on this, when I have a big project like that, I do end up having to do a wrist stretching section, and I do actually have a video about that. And massaging my forearms because they do get sore. So that's what we do. Well, folks, as you saw, this was an absolute mess. And this is what happens when you do big canning projects. It doesn't matter whether it's pickling or whether it's something like this where you have a mixed combination of some sort, especially where you have a mixed combination, or whether you're making jams or preserves, doesn't matter. It is always going to be messy. It is always going to be a total chaos. Just, get used to it. Just don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. So, at some point I actually had to split my mix into 2 bowls because I needed some space to stir. And so I'm gonna just give them another sprinkle of pickling salt. There we go. I am going to also add my currants. Just be generous. There's no measurements in this. Just have fun with it. Just add stuff. If you think about it, this is all, if you were to make a salad, you can probably quick pickle this in the refrigerator. It's actually like a really good slaw type salad. So, and you can already see it's starting to juice, which is a good thing. The juice is like absolutely the best thing about this, because that becomes mixed with the marinade, which we'll make in a second, and produces a really fun and beautiful flavor. As I mentioned during the Snacky Sunday episode, I love the juice that's left over from Super Slaw just to dip the bread into and just sop it up. I love it. So in addition to 2 bowls of Super Slaw mix, we got a really nice bowl of scraps to make vegetable stock with, and one of my onions had really good roots. So I split it in half, and they will get planted in one of my gardening boxes outside as part of my grand planting experiment. I've actually been sprouting spring onions like out of little onion butts. So we'll see if this one actually sprouts and produces anything. Should be interesting. Now, let's make the marinade. This is the recipe I borrowed as an idea. You can go look for it. It's the cabbage, carrot, and cranberry salad recipe. And I've actually made this, following this recipe. It's really, really good, and it's delicious. But what I was really interested in is this part right here, the marinade. So, for a single cabbage, it's 2 cups water, 1.5 tablespoons salt, 1/3 cup of sugar, 1/3 cup white vinegar, 1/3 cup oil. I usually use olive oil, and garlic. I made a double, as you recall, so we are going to have to multiply everything by 2 in making the recipe. All right. So our marinade is slowly getting there. Gotta make sure you stir it since it does contain oil and water. There we go. Try not to start a fire like I just did. But all we're doing is waiting for it to get to the boiling point. Meanwhile, we're going to start filling up our jars. And you already know the routine if you saw my previous pickling video. So for every jar, we're going to be using big jars. We might have enough to fill up some small jars as well. So for every jar, we get 2 peppercorns, a couple of bay leaves or 1 bay leaf, if you have a really big one, and a clove of garlic before you do anything else. Then we're just going to gently, carefully start filling them up with our Super Slaw mix. Now this is kind of fun. This is a little bit of a physics experiment actually. So we are going to just keep filling this. And by the way, you think this is a lot. It's not. You'd be surprised how not a lot this is. So my marinade has boiled. I brought it down to low. And I'll show you how to properly fill the jar. And it's almost a little bit of kitchen magic going on here. All right. Still not quite full. When you're filling the jars, whether it's a little jar or a big jar, fill it all the way to the top. I'll show you why. There's a reason for this. Come on, buddy. Fill it like where you have to stuff it down with the spoon. Okay, so would you agree that this jar looks reasonably full, yeah? All right. Now, let's start adding the marinade. Once you have added a little bit, take your spoon and press it down. See what I mean? Is the jar full now? Nope. It is not full. We have to add to it. And be careful because this is going to be hot. Remember, the marinade had just boiled like a minute ago. Alright, so once again, we are certain this jar is full. Well, almost. But you see what I mean? So as we subject our Super Slaw mix to the super hot mix of water, oil, and other things, and vinegar, the ingredients get softer, especially the cabbage, and settle in. So I think this is about good. You can add a little bit more, just a teeniest bit more here. And as before, I'm going to add a little sprinkle of citric acid and cap it. Woo, hot, hot, hot. And there's our great big blue pan already prepared for heat treatment, and I'm going to pop it right in there. Once I fill up more jars, we'll get more of them in there. So this worked out really well. I'm pleased. I did run out of marinade and I had to make another recipe. I think what I didn't take into consideration is that the author of the original recipe where I get the idea for the marinade uses a cabbage and just a few extra ingredients. I think, you know, she has the bell pepper, the carrots, and the apple. But I put a lot more stuff into it. So I didn't just double the recipe, but with all the extra things, in addition to the 2 cabbages, I actually tripled the recipe. So I had to make an extra batch of marinade. No problem. Happens all the time. As you have seen before, it's going to happen. No big deal. But, so this is the 3 big jars that have finished heat treating and are ready to cool and be put away. And in the big blue pan, there is 1 more jar like this, 1 more big jar, and 3 smaller wide mouth jars. I recommend using the wide mouth jars for this. See, this is the big cap. Because it's just easier to load up the jar, but because you have to get the whole spoon with the stuff in it, you know, into the opening. And when you finally get around to eating it, it's easier to get stuff out. Super Slaw is best eaten chilled with anything. I like it for the summer, although I usually do have a few jars for the winter, and I also like sending it to people because it's so pretty. See how pretty it is? It's just this very saturated red pink from all the red ingredients in it. And so just once this is done, again, 3 to 6 weeks is recommended. 3 is okay. If you really want the full flavor, be patient. Let it sit for 6 weeks. Once it's done, stick a jar into the refrigerator, let it chill overnight, and then, have it with whatever you want, or just, spoon jar mouth approach. I hope this was fun. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you tried making this and how it came out. I would love for you to comment, and I'm hoping to see you again soon.